the next chapter with Jen Bryant. Today, I am joined by country rock star Matt Gage. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. That was a really perfect introduction. Thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Matt.
My name is Matt Gage. I have a country rock band and out of Sacramento, and hopefully that band will get bigger as we go on. There you go.
You have 2 albums and you're about to go into the studio to record a third, so you're pretty well established.
Yeah, well, that's a very nice thing to say. That is very, very nice thing to say. Yes, there's 2 full albums that I'm very proud of. In 2015, we went down to the Berkeley studios, which I don't know how many country artists get to record in the capital of country music of Berkeley, California. But that's had an incredible studio down there in East Bay Recordings. Did 11 songs, and the claim to fame with that one was members of the band Rancid, Lars Friedrichsen and Matt Freeman, played on 2 of those songs, and really, those guys were my heroes growing up. So to have met them and to play with them was kind of like, I still get chills just kind of talking about it now. Actually. So they did the first album, and then in 2017 put out another one called Truth, and all original music, and really tried to bridge the influences of old school country with, old school punk rock.
So did you always want to be a musician when you grew up? Or as a kid, like, was that what you dreamed of being?
No, I think I wanted to be a fireman. I think I wanted to put the fires out, and you guys never not without a garden hose, dousing my friends or family. But no, I sometimes think I started out like anyone. You start getting a little wild and crazy, and you realize that music is just kind of centers your soul. So
when's the first time you picked up a musical instrument?
When I was 7 years old, my grandmother gave me my first guitar, and I still have it. And I probably spent the next 10, 15 years not learning really how to play, just toting it around. And it went with me everywhere, whether I went to college, jobs, I didn't know what cool was, but I knew there was something about that guitar that was. And so I think I was in my mid-20s when I actually learned to start taking it a little bit more serious.
So most people have like a security blanket. Your guitar was your going out blanket. I can take it.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, it really was, yeah. Yeah. To this day, I play some mean air guitar because of that guitar. You know,
Who doesn't want to know the guy that's carrying around a guitar? What kind of band he has? What a great conversation breaker.
Yeah, I was part of that guy who had that old T-shirt. I'm in a band, so talk to me. Yeah, it was real. I didn't have that shirt, but no.
You didn't have it? Should we make you one?
I'm not opposed to it. Yeah.
So what prompted you in your 20s to actually learn how to play that musical instrument that you carried around for 15 plus years?
There's a big difference between a 7-year-old's heart and a 25-year-old's heart who's finally got a little seasoned in life and realized that there's a lot of pitfalls and a lot of pain in life. And that was one channel or instrument that I had to connect with that and to almost release any type of negativity or anger or emotions that come with life. That's what music is for.
So how did you get into writing music and then learning to play the guitar? Which one came first, and how did you decide to delve into that?
Let's see if I can put this the right way, because I remember growing up always listening and connecting with music. Even if I really didn't understand what the song was about, I knew it did something. And then when you get older and you have your pains and struggles, it kind of marries up with each other, music, and you suddenly realize, oh man, I know what that song means now. And in my experience, once that happens, listening to music no longer is just suffice. You suddenly have to tell your own story, good, bad, or indifferent. And that's how I really got into songwriting, was trying to just tell my story and make sure people are having a good time and uplifting music at the same time.
That's very interesting, because I never knew growing up why like Linkin Park and these very angry bands, Limp Bizkit, and like why I identified with this. I mean, I grew up in East Sacramento, and I'm jamming out, memorizing these lyrics, punk rock, and definitely not what you would think would be my kind of music. But now in the last 6-7 years since I've gone to treatment and such for, complex PTSD. It's interesting to see like the people identified with even at a young age, not knowing where their pain came from. And you could feel the beat, you could feel the struggle that they were going through.
Yeah, and like I said, Linkin Park is an incredible example of that. Chad Bennett, and like for me, I thought like the what you're talking about, like how it changes you, like music. For me, I thought if there's one thing lost in music nowadays, it's the art of making an album. Because people probably your age and my age, we grew up. It wasn't just one song that changed your life or one thing. It was a full album. It was that theme or that mission statement, whatever instrument would be. And you'd Google to see what Leonard Skinner was wearing. And then you realize, this is my attire, There's always a mission attached to an album. And I think when we tried to record mine, that's what we really try to hold on to, that art.
That's so amazing.
What's that?
Oh, I said that's so amazing. So I didn't have the internet until I went to college, so I had to pull out the CD lyrics and read them.
yeah, that was some of your favorite. That was beautiful. Some of the greatest artists go into just the creating of that.
But to have the whole CD and to play the whole thing, I think that is a lost art. So when you go to the studio, do you typically pick a theme before you start writing? How does that process work?
That's I'm glad you asked that, because this is the first time that, yes, we're going into doing another album, but this one is going to be half of it. It's probably going to be 5 songs. And I've kicked around with the idea that we're going to call this some type of session, like whether it's the whiskey sessions or the John Wayne session. So I'm going in there completely inhibited, kind of organic, thinking about what is this about? What's the theme where it's going to be? It's going to be funny or humor or whatever the band and I come, and that's what we're going to name this next album, whatever that the spirit of in the studio will be.
So who are your musical inspirations, that you draw from when you decided to be this country rock star in your mid-20s and learn to play musical instruments?
I grew up a big Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash fan, as did most, but that later transpired into Shooter Jennings. Waylon's son was a huge influence of music, what could be done with bridge, and also Jackson Taylor out of Texas is another one that just started playing the traditional alt country. Even when there was mainstream country music in the 60s and 70s, there was always an offshoot of something. No one really knew the term alt country until the outlaw movement came into, bands like Cracker came into, Uncle Tupelo, Sunvolt. They were different. And now there's a whole other generation recreating that, such as the Shooter Jennings of the world, or Jackson Taylors, or even Yellow Wolf is up there. So bands like that.
That's so amazing. So I'm not familiar with most of those, so hopefully our audience. I know Johnny Cash because I had to memorize the lyrics in 8th grade.
Oh, which one?
Folsom Prison.
Right on.
I'm very good at memorizing lyrics, as a kid. We were, I think, talking about this earlier, that you memorize the whole song and you hear it come on and it takes you back to that moment. Yeah. And I think that this generation that's kind of lost on that feeling, that moment when we used to go to dances, the high school dances, and when Nelly would set the tone for because I went to an all-girls school, I really looked forward to being able to see the boys. You had to be able to drop like it's hot and be your best Catholic girl self.
There's some stuff sure right now listening to you being that rock and roll.
Well, that was the thing, because you have I had such an eclectic musical taste growing up, to be honest. I wasn't allowed to listen to normal music. I mean, my favorite anthem for years was Dirty Dancing, Hungry Eyes, that was on cassette tape, and my dad had to play it over and over in the car.
Oh my God.
And Michael Bolton.
Growing up, I don't think I had a girlfriend or my sister to this day watches Dirty Dancing. You either loved it or hated it in my house. That was all there was to it, man. There was.
My mom only owned 2 movies. It was Pretty Woman and Dirty Dancing. And
oh my God!
I'm sure
I've known it for half a day, and that makes so much sense now. I got it. That makes sense.
If people only knew what great influences I grew up with. explains a lifetime of shenanigans, I'm sure. So, if you had one piece of advice to give your younger self or someone that is at a crossroads musically in their life or, life choices wise, what piece of advice would you give them?
The one thing that the first thing that popped in my mind is I remember years ago, someone told me something and it seemed really corny at the time. A good friend of mine told me, so, Matt, music doesn't lie. And I'm like, God, that's so cheesy and kind of generic. But when you really start doing this as a profession and you start really putting your heart and soul into it, you realize that you can really identify with something that connects with you or with your audience. There's either soul in music or there isn't, whether that's a lie or not a lie. You can tell when someone's trying to force it or doing it for alternative motives. It just, when someone has a sincere passion for music, it comes out and therefore it doesn't lie. So my advice would be to find that notch, to find that niche, and make sure it's not something else that someone's already done before. Make sure it's uniquely yourself, because we're all pioneering of something forward and we don't need to mimic something else.
So that begs the question then, Matt. So what does the next chapter for Matt W. Gage look like?
Man, God, if I knew, that would be great. It's so weird to have, hopefully the evolution of music and my songwriting has gotten to a point where I'll be 44 this year and married. I don't have a family besides my wife and my dog, our three-legged dog, Leo. But I hope the music becomes more mature and, like I just said, authentic and sincere for whatever I'm going to.
That's amazing. So you're going to put out another album. Do you hope to tour this year? I
do. Yeah, absolutely. In the mix of COVID and then life, like a lot of the band core members have moved on. So it's kind of a regrouping and an exciting but intimidating time to go forward and to put out music and have trusted band members that they're gonna show up every night and put out that same energy and project that you had. So yeah, we're gonna tour, do music, be rich and famous, win some Grammys. So I assume this interview is gonna give me tons of money. And
well, you heard it here first. What comes next? So there you go. Putting it out in the universe. We're manifesting that.
Absolutely. Totally.
So you're going to be able to actually give some of our viewers an amazing preview of the song, which I cannot wait for in just a little bit. But if you had to tell anybody about that wants to get into music writing or songwriting or performing, what would you tell them would be the best avenue to get there at a young age?
Man, there's so many things. Everyone has such a unique path. I mean, people are successful in this music that when I spoke with met Lars Friedrichsen at Rancid, one of my big heroes, we were talking, and the advice that he said was just be true to yourself. Put out music that you want to hear, because you can be the greatest musician in the entire world and no one's going to hear about you. Or you could be the musician in the world and you may be world famous or Justin Bieber, one of the two. That's one thing. And so just be true to yourself and just sincerely. I always joke that there's no one that is a bigger fan of my music than me. I wrote and played music that I wanted to hear, and I'm very proud of that. And I would encourage everyone else to do that.
That's so amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Matt. And if people want to learn more about your albums, follow you, where can they find you?
Yeah, just about Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Matt W. Gage, and then the website, mattwgage.com. And those would be the primary ones. Yeah.
Fantastic, Matt. Well, I look forward to your performance. Thank you so much for joining me today for the next chapter of Jen Brian. I know the viewers are going to be looking up your music and following you, and I can't wait for you all to see what we have for you next on the next chapter of Jen Brian. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I cannot wait for you to hear the live musical performance by Matt W. Gage.
This is the song we're going to be recording down in the studio here in just a few weeks, called Me and Me. There ought to be a bar in this town just for guys like me. A place where I could go, man, and just be me. Some girls might come on out and they take off all their clothes. I'd come out the guitar and say, welcome to the show. The same lonely girl would be there looking for love. Just like me, man, just never quite enough. 'Cause I broke some hearts and I felt some pain. I'll cross my bridges with matches and gasoline. And here I go, just being me. I'm being the only man that I can be. My life has traveled a gravel road. I'm pretty tall, but I still talk slow. Sure, I know all the words to bring her right back, but I'll just sit right here, man, and watch her pass. 'Cause I broke some hearts and I felt some pain. I'll cross my bridges with matches and gasoline. And here I go, just being me. I'm being the only man that I can be.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you so much. I know the viewers are going to love it and they're going to come find your music. Can you tell them once again where they can learn more about you and listen to your music?
Yeah, please go to Spotify, Pandora, Google Play, YouTube, Matt W. Gage, Matt W. Gage Band. Follow, like, be awesome, be happy and healthy.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Matt. Have a great evening.